ticked up a bit today, and here to assess we have Brandon Arnold from the National Taxpayers Union. Brandon Arnold, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Brandon, the deadlines on the short-term spending bill are March 1st and March 8th. What do you think Congress might be able to do to avert a government shutdown? And what is to make of this latest inflation number that's ticking up a bit?
Yeah, there's a lot happening behind the scenes, fortunately. There are some discussions taking place between Republicans and Democrats because obviously we're going to need a bipartisan solution to avert a shutdown. But there's still a long way to go. I think what is most likely is yet another short-term spending patch, which is really unfortunate because if you do that, you miss out on the opportunities to do the real budgeting that's necessary to help get our nation back on track. We can't continue to run these massive deficits, and they just keep kicking the can down the road. In terms of inflation, it was kind of a disappointing report this morning because inflation, once again, is not where it needs to be. I know Joe Biden is out there saying they're beating inflation, they're getting the job done. We have made some progress, but there's still a long road to go. And you look at the inflation that's taken place since the beginning of his presidency, prices are 17, 20% in some situations higher than what they were just a few years ago.
As you may have watched, Brandon, President Biden blaming companies for shrinkflation in a Super Bowl ad. What message does that ad send to Americans who are hurting with inflation and often working two jobs to make ends meet?
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. I mean, there are some cases of shrinkflation, but I think it'd be nice for a politician, be that Biden or virtually anyone, Republican or Democrat, to just accept some responsibilities. There's no question that some of the policies that Biden has advocated have increased inflation, namely the giant infrastructure and stimulus package that was passed early in his presidency in March of 2021. That was the American Recovery Plan Act. That boosted inflation by several percentage points because it pumped trillions of dollars into the economy at the worst possible time. So I don't know why politicians have to always pretend like they're right, like they are infallible, like they have some magical solutions here that work every single time, because clearly that's not the case. Just say, I messed up. I enacted the wrong policies. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to do better. But I don't think there's that level of humility amongst politicians these days.
I was just going to say a little bit of humility goes a long way in life, doesn't it? But I guess objectively, how long could we Americans be facing this inflation, and do you think it could get even worse than what we saw today before it gets better?
Well, the good news is I think it has stabilized, and it's trending in the right direction. But we're not getting to that point where we're going to have any kind of deflationary situation where prices are actually going to fall. I think prices are going to continue to increase, but at a lower rate. And, I think there's a lot of the question hinges on what Congress does and what the Fed does. The Fed was poised to cut interest rates in the not too distant future, probably a few months into the future, once inflation gets under control. That might be paused or delayed into later this year. And of course, we want to see inflation come down, but we're also very concerned about people that are carrying tremendous amounts of debt right now. We're seeing credit card balances at their highest level ever, well over $1 trillion in collective credit card balances. And when people are only making their monthly payment, it can literally take decades to pay off even just a few $1,000s of debt.
Brandon Arnold, really appreciate you joining us and sharing your perspective. Thank you.
My pleasure.